was 1936, and when I had graduated from high school, I went to North Park College. I couldn't afford to go away to school because that was too expensive. I had to live at home, but there was a junior college right in the same neighborhood as my high school, North Park, and that's where I went for one semester from February to June. And so when I came back, then I went back to this junior college. But Mumamuti's friends were anxious to know what my generation thought of their country, because they weren't able, nobody was able to make that trip at that time. So I was asked to speak to them. And of course I was kind of nervous about that. Speaking to my parents' friends, I didn't know how well I could do. And obviously the people who organized the program weren't so sure that I might not fall flat on my face too. So they decided they had better have a little more on the program. And they invited a Swedish tenor who was well known, Gunnar Sund. He was going to come and sing as part of the program. And he asked Daddy to be his accompanist. And so they performed on the program too. Well, I was so nervous about this whole thing that I didn't remember them being there at all. So I was amazed when a couple of days later we got a telephone call. And Grandpa, Daddy's father, called. And evidently Sig had come home and told about the program. And since Grandma and Grandpa were in charge of the program committee for the lodge that they belonged to, the Swedish Smithian Club, which was a fraternal organization they belonged to. They had the job of getting programs for their monthly meeting. And Daddy evidently suggested to them that maybe they'd like to hear what I had to say. I was amazed. I couldn't believe that. So, well, if they wanted to hear it, I was willing. Yeah, well, Mutti was a member of the Smithian Lodge too, but there were several different lodges. He belonged to a different one. And if they wanted to hear it, I was amazed. I didn't think I had that much to say, but if they wanted to hear it, okay, I'd come. But I had no idea who Daddy was. So when I got there, some young man came up and said something to me, and I assumed it was him, but it wasn't. Daddy was a little too shy to do that, I think.
That's funny.
But at any rate, I gave my talk, and then this young man that had come up and talked to me told me that the Irving Park Lodge had a young people's club. The kids of these members got together once a month and had fun together. And would I be interested in joining them? Well, I didn't know much about it, but, well, they'd come and tell me about it. And Daddy got the job of coming, and what he had to do was try to sell me insurance, because in order to belong to this thing, you had to buy a life insurance. It was a very small insurance. I still have it, $500 or something like that. And it was, the purpose of that was to help these immigrants, first to have, to meet with fellow Swedes, have a social time together, but mostly it was so that if somebody got sick, there was no Social Security or anything to take care of you. Well, as I say, Daddy got the job to come over to try to sell me this insurance and asked me to join the Young People's Club. Well, that Young People's Club turned out to be a matchmaking group. Almost all the kids who were in that group ended up marrying one another. And they are still, to this day, are still friends, those that are living. All of Daddy's brothers and sisters belong to it. And it seems everybody, they paired up, and before you know it, was one wedding after another. And as I say, we're still friends, and it's still called the Young People's Club. We haven't gotten together now in several years, but not too terribly long ago, we had a reunion, and that was really interesting. So that was the most significant part of the Sweden trip, really, because
that's pretty funny.
Eventually it ended up in a marriage for us. Well, that's probably a good time to stop.